Beautiful day out there at High Point Solutions Stadium. Really excited to wrap up spring practice. I'm very pleased with a lot of the progress we've made. We've got a lot of work to do, but that's why we still got a lot of time before we play that first game. I'm sure you guys have noticed that Coach Friedge is not on the sideline. He's in the process of passing a kidney stone, and our thoughts are with him, and we're sure that that'll happen today, and we'll be raring to go again on Monday. Our captains for today, David Maluski and Joe Lohman, just so you know how those captains were decided on. Those two guys on their respective teams are the swarm and finish winners for spring practice. And we grade that on every play, every 11-on-11 play that we have in practice. And it's really based on nothing more than just effort and running to the football. So those two guys were the tops on each of their teams. And I was excited to name them captains for the spring game this year. I've got some awards to talk about that we'll give out here at the end of spring practice to the players. Our most improved player on offense, Janarian Grant, a young man who everybody saw on special teams last year, but has really made some major progress as a wide receiver. On defense, TJ Taylor, who as in that will linebacker position really has grown over the last 14 practices, and saw him out there in the first half make some nice plays as well. I'm excited for both those guys. We give out one other award that is really the toughness award for our football team, and that award goes to David Maluski. And I think anybody who's around David for more than 30 seconds understands exactly how tough he is, what he's had to overcome in his career to get back on the field, and now healthy for a full year. Somebody who's really going to help us play defense at a high level next year. Questions?
How's the play calling working on offense today? What's the game plan there and everything?
Didn't change the game plan. We had already had the call sheet ready to go, and Coach Wilson is calling the plays on offense for today.
Quarterbacks, where do they stand now at the end of camp? How happy are you with their progress, and is there a leader going into training camp?
I think if we had to play today, Gary would be our starter. We're not ready to name a starter just yet. I think Mike and Chris have both made a lot of progress this spring, and I think when you've got one guy who's got a lot of game experience and two others who don't, you have to give them as many snaps and opportunities as you can if you think they got a chance to make your team better. But I'm pleased with all three of those guys. I feel like we've got three quarterbacks on our team right now that can help us win football games. And now we'll just take the time between spring practice and the first game to figure out exactly how it'll sort out.
What have you liked from Gary?
I like the fact that Gary's making good decisions. And did not throw, I think he threw one interception in 14 practices in the spring game, first half. So I think that's a pretty good job now. It's hard to do that without making good decisions. He's protecting the football, and I think his location's been good. Do I think it could be better? I do. I think he still has room to improve, but I'm very pleased with the progress. He's a better quarterback today than he was at the end of the season. I think that's the goal for everybody.
How much impact has that been from Ralph?
I don't think you can discount it. I mean, the quarterbacks that Ralph has trained in the past have had a tremendous amount of success over time, and I think he's had a great influence on Gary and those other quarterbacks as well. But certainly Gary, with the most experience, I think he's had a big influence on.
Kyle, how does not naming a quarterback affect things going into the offseason in the sense of having your leader on offense?
I think Gary's been a leader on offense. He was named captain by his teammates last year, so I don't know that me naming him the starter today would increase his value as a leader. I think Gary's got an ability to lead. I think at that position, if you don't have an ability to lead, you can't play it. So guys like Mike Lamonte, Chris Laviano, they have an excellent skill set for leadership also. And I think those guys on offense have to be your leaders. That's the most important position on the team, and certainly on the offense. So I think the leadership will come from a lot of places. I'm not concerned about it being affected by naming a starter.
Obviously, it probably would have helped to have one voice rather than three guys competing for it, in July and stuff when the coaches aren't out on the field and just the players.
I don't know if I agree with that, because when those guys work out in the summer and they're not with us, all those players will be taking reps. All those players are going to need to be heard, and the reality is one of them is going to be, whoever it ends up being, is going to be one snap from being the guy. So they better be ready to lead when they get in there.
Kyle, how much of a concern was it when you were thinking about Ralph, about his health and things like that when you were considering hiring him?
None whatsoever. No, I think there's a lot of people who deal with this issue on a daily basis, and I think he'll deal with it today, and we'll be ready to move on by tomorrow.
How much different is his offense going to be under Ralph from last year?
That's a great question. I think in terms of the personnel groups we play in, it'll be the same. I think you'll see us playing the same personnel groups. I think you'll see some things that Ralph will do more of maybe than Ron did last year or Dave did the year before. I think you will. I think every coordinator has a comfort zone in play calling, and some coordinators like shifts and motions more than others. Some coordinators like certain run schemes more than others. It's not that you don't carry them, just the emphasis gets changed. So I think there will be some very definitive differences when you see this offense under Ralph next year.
Is there a feeling that some of Gary's problems were coaching that can be cured by a different voice from last year?
I don't think so. I don't see it that way. I think Coach Prince is a very talented football coach. I think Coach Brock is a very talented football coach. I think the progress I've seen is the progress you would hope you would see through experience. And as a player, does sometimes somebody's voice maybe strike you a little more clearly than somebody else's? I think that certainly could be the case. I don't know that for sure. I don't know if we'd ever know that for sure. But it seems to be the right guy and the right pairing at the right time. That I would agree with.
God, does Janarian give you guys something on offense that maybe you haven't had in a little while? Like in terms of that shifty, I don't know, it seems like he's running a few different routes maybe than some of the other receivers.
He's actually running some of the routes that Muhammad ran, even though you wouldn't necessarily put those two together if they're not exactly the same body type. But I think Janarian's a very unique player. You see it come out in special teams all the time, and I think if we can get the ball to him in space, what you have is a guy who can make anybody miss on the field, and he's a one-step change of direction guy, and he's got excellent top speed, although he got tackled on the one, which I wasn't that excited about. But I was excited about the rest of that play. So I think he's a unique player. So if we can get the ball in his hands in space, he can do some spectacular things.
I know it's
he's developed as a receiver since.
I think he's light years from where he started. I really do. And when you're not necessarily in that top 4 or 5 receivers, it's hard to get the reps you need in practice to really make the progress you'd like to make. So and that's just the nature of the season. That's what the season is. And now that with the graduation of Brandon Coleman and Karan Pratt, he becomes a very valuable guy for us. And now he's gotten a lot of reps, and I think we're seeing the progress of all that experience.
Only the first half, but anybody flash out there for you or make some plays that that really caught your attention?
The guys flashing to me are the guys who flashed all spring. A guy like Janarian Grant, a guy like Desmond Peoples. I think Darius Hamilton was an excellent player for us last year, but has really raised the level of his game. I saw him in the backfield a couple times, and I saw Kamoko Toure make a couple nice plays against the one offense, which I think is good because he's a guy we think is going to play for us next year.
How much do you think the fans and even the players and stuff enjoy having the NFL guys come back here and give back with the autographs and stuff?
I think there's a couple things about this day that really make it great. We have that Believe Bowl, the flag football game, where they get to see a lot of the former players who maybe aren't in the NFL or maybe played in the NFL or are done, but the Scarlet Knight fans remember them from their playing days, and I think it's fun for them to have them out there. And certainly the NFL guys are always an attraction, and the fact that they give up their time to come here and sign autographs every year, it makes you feel like as a program you're doing things the right way and that they want to come back, and that always makes me feel good. And certainly the game itself, to see some of the younger players, I think guys like Janarian Grant, Kamoko Toure, maybe that they haven't seen play as much, I think the fans always look forward to that. So I think on a lot of different levels this becomes a unique day for the fans and a great experience for them.